stood deep within your dream, taking aim for your heart, so it would seem. Stand tall and read, go to hell and jump for paradise. Every time dangerous, dangerous, we like it serious, serious. Oh.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to One Piece, episodes 853 to 856. And this is the first reaction, second video of One Piece week number 2. So yeah, for those of you who somehow didn't know about this coming up, I talked about it plenty, but just in case, if you didn't know about it, if you're new or whatnot, this entire week is dedicated to nothing but One Piece. I might put up like an update video or something like that as well, but all of the actual content I upload this week is going to be One Piece related. Yesterday we had a top 10. Today and tomorrow, as well as Thursday and Friday, we're doing reactions to the series. Wednesday is an AMV, and Saturday is a movie reaction. But the point is, every day this week is something One Piece related. So, yeah. Like I said, today we are doing another 4 episodes. And we left off on a very excuse me, interesting moment. So a lot of stuff is happening currently. The group is split up pretty heavily, and we're following a few different threads, but there's 3 main ones. The first thread is the majority of the crew is on the ship. They are being chased by Big Mom and her fleet. Big Mom is in her hunger pains mode, so she's not really all there. But they're still chasing them, trying to attack them. Big Mom, in her state, thinks that they have a secondary wedding cake, thanks to Perospero. They're headed towards Chocolat Island, and I'll get to why in a moment, but right before they headed out, Pedro sacrificed himself to help them escape and to try and take out Perospero. And that second option didn't, or the second reason didn't exactly work out because Perospero survived. Granted, he lost an arm and was heavily hurt by the explosion, but he did survive. However, Pedro's plan was still a success because everyone was able to escape. So it did help. They're still being chased, but they did get out of there. They're going to Chocolat Island, meanwhile, because on Chocolat Island is where we currently have Charlotte Pudding, Charlotte Chiffon, and Sanji. This team is working to make another cake identical to the original wedding cake in order to appease Big Mom. Sanji has this kind of photographic memory bullshit going on, where he not only remembers the exact look of the cake, the exact like dimensions and everything, just from seeing it, but just from smell alone, he knows every single ingredient in the cake, and even to the point where he knows the secret ingredient that was put in, which is insane. And it's like we've known Sanji is like phenomenal top tier chef. Like, of course, that's kind of the point. But it's like this is to the point where it's like, holy shit, dude. And only because it's One Piece, it's like, is this like that you can kind of suspend your disbelief and accept this because it's One Piece, and because One Piece is that crazy where it's like, oh yeah, in this world I could kind of believe that, I guess. So it's like, okay. But yeah, so they're going to remake the cake using Pudding's top tier chocolate, Chiffon's top tier cake, and Sanji's just top tier baking skills in general. Pudding used her powers of mind and memory manipulation in order to make the top chefs who are helping them out think that the wedding went according to plan and that Sanji and her are now married. But we don't know like if anyone else is going to find out at any point or if there's going to be any threat of that. They managed to convince everyone else around town to just stay out and not let anyone else come in, but we don't know how long that's going to last, if that's going to last. Um, and the third focus is that when they were getting ready to head out from the port after Pedro's sacrifice and all, Luffy managed to pull Katakuri into the Miro world because Brule stuck her head out of the mirror to check in on them, especially Katakuri. Um, and that gave Luffy enough opportunity to go through and pull Katakuri in with him. So now Luffy and Katakuri are fighting in the Miro world. Um, and at the very end, I believe it was the very end of the last episode, Luffy had been losing to Katakuri. It had been almost completely one-sided because Katakuri's powers allow him to basically emulate Luffy's, which is, like I said in the last reaction, it was really interesting. It's just a really fantastic concept that Oda came up with here. The idea that we have another Devil Fruit user whose powers can match Luffy's in pretty much every way. He can do the same exact moves and attacks and match Luffy and even surpass him using the same kind of maneuvers. He can do the Gatling. He can do the elephant gun. He can do all of it. So it's going to be interesting to see how it comes down to what it comes down to. Because even with hockey, it's like we know Katakuri has hockey as well. So it's like I don't even think that's going to be enough. But either way, at the end, they were getting ready to, the others who were in the mirror world with them, were getting ready to shoot flaming arrows into the ship. Because even though Luffy destroyed the mirror they came through, there's another mirror that leads into the Sunny. So they found that mirror and they're planning to shoot flaming arrows into it. Luffy is being stopped from, well, stopping them. And at this point, really the only hope he has of stopping them without being able to get past Katakuri would be to use Conqueror's Haki. Using that would allow him to probably take them out. I assume they would be taken out, or at least taken down by Conqueror's Haki. Katakuri probably wouldn't be affected much by it. He's strong enough to be able to withstand it. But the others there, especially the small fries, the soldiers and all, they'll be taken down. Brule, unsure. Honestly, if I'm just being completely honest, I'm unsure if it'll affect Brule that much. But either way, yeah, this is going to be interesting to see where this goes. Knowing One Piece, they're going to stretch all of these plot points out. Just by focusing on all of them and everything, they're going to be able to they're going to be able to stretch them out. And they did so because they wanted to not catch up with the manga too quickly and everything, which I get, but a lot of it's going to feel a little bit slow because of it, I feel. Like the fight, for example, the fight with Luffy and Katakuri, I feel is going to feel like it's taking a little too long. It's going to be one of those typical anime fights where it's like, oh, 10 episodes before Luffy even starts to get advantage. Something like that. I mean, I don't know. I might end up being proven wrong. One Piece, while it definitely has had fights that last a long time, I believe the Luffy versus Doflamingo fight in Dressrosa lasted quite a while. Um, while it has definitely had fights that have lasted a long time, at the same time, it's also very much gotten to the point where it's learned how to balance things out to where even when the fights last longer, there's still so many things happening at once that it allows for it to feel more natural than it would otherwise. More natural than, say, the fights in Dragon Ball Z feel, honestly. um, Because even with Dragon Ball Z, where there are other things happening at the same time, it just the pacing of it felt so unnatural with everything that was happening. But yeah, hopefully it'll still be done well. Um, but yeah, I don't know how this arc is going to end. We're like I said last time, we are in the climax. We are in the big, grand final act of this arc for sure. And basically, at this point, like they've got everything they came for. They got Sanji back. They got the poneglyph etchings. They got everything that they came there for. Pretty much at this point, it's just escaping. Everything they're currently doing is for the point of escaping, satiating Big Mom, defeating Katakuri. All of it is necessary in order for them to get out of Whole Cake Island and Toto Land in general. Although technically they're already out of Whole Cake Island, but still, you get the point. Um, they're just trying to escape at this point, to leave. And yeah, so it's just going to take a while to do so. The thing I'm wondering is, even when Big Mom is satiated, even when she gets this cake, would she still, like, would that actually stop her? Like, it might pause her for a moment while she's eating the cake, but once she regains her senses, she'll still probably go after them. It's like she still has reason and motivation to go after them. It's not like that's going to end once she has her cake. Like that's not how it works. Um, but like I said, I don't know exactly what's going to happen. I don't know exactly where they're going to go with this. Um, as I've said in the past, I just know about a couple things coming up because being as far behind as I've been, it's hard not to hear things or see images or whatnot just when randomly scrolling around online. So I know a couple things coming up, but I don't know all the details about them. I don't know when they're coming. I don't know the context behind them at all. And in general, I do not know how our heroes are getting out of this. I don't know how Luffy's going to defeat Katakuri. I do not know if this cake plan's even going to work. A lot of questions here. A lot of things that I just do not know the outcome of. And I'm excited for that because it means I get to discover it all as I watch. Um, and I'm excited to see like how this all wraps up and how they do escape. Um, so yeah. Um, Either way, we're just gonna get this started and find out. So when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episodes. So, that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So there's really only two things to talk about with this set of episodes. Like, not too much else happened. Like, there's some other stuff we saw with, like, other characters and stuff. We saw Peckham's again. Um, we saw more stuff, like, with the cake being made. We saw some other Charlotte family members doing their thing, heading their ways and all. Big Mom got distracted by nuts. All of that kind of stuff. But there's only two real things that really mattered. And that was the events that happened with the Sunny, and only two real things with that, and then Luffy versus Katakuri. So I'll start with the Sunny. So the first thing with the Sunny is the entire thing with Jinbei as the helmsman. So Jinbei, who is technically now an official part of the crew, like he's left Big Mom and he's already sworn allegiance to the crew. He's already said that he's joining them. Luffy's already accepted him. He is a part of the Straw Hat crew. And we see here he's clearly going to be the helmsman. It's what he's good at, and he showed like an exceptional ability. by not only dodging the wave as it came crashing down on top of them, but going into the green room of it, which is basically in the space between where the wave came crashing down and then the part of it rising up behind it. Um, as a fishman, he mentioned that young fishmen, young members of the fishman tribe would play there. That it was like this playground for them almost, which is interesting lore for the fishman tribe. Um, so we get to see a bit of, we get to learn a little bit more about them, and as well as see Jinbei just be honestly badass. Like the way he steered the ship, like steered all the masts and columns and shit using the ropes and all. It's like, holy shit, dude. um, but on top of that, after they got to safety and all, they went around and smashed all the mirrors so that um, there wouldn't be any more danger of flaming arrows or anything coming at them um, from the mirror world. Like the bad guys were even planning on straight up invading. So yeah, definitely a good idea there. But we're very clearly seeing here that Jinbei is an exceptionally valuable member of the crew now. Now that he's joined in, we're seeing his abilities. We're clearly seeing what his position on the crew is going to be. And I mean, we've known plenty before this, like even before the time skip and shit. Like the dude can fight, so it's not like that's ever a question. Honestly, outside of the monster trio, he is the strongest member of the crew without question. Like Robin is strong, of course. Brooke is extremely strong as a swordsman, much more so than honestly the show lets on at times. But Jinbei, like he was the former warlord of the sea. The dude is exceptionally strong. He's definitely the strongest outside of the monster trio. Um, and yeah, it's like, so we know he can fight, but now we're also getting to see his abilities outside of just combat. We're seeing his abilities as a helmsman as well. And so that's really cool. And I mean, I still want Carrot to eventually join the crew. And I mentioned, I think in the last set of episodes, that she could possibly be a lookout. Because that is a valid, legitimate member of a ship crew. Lookouts are important. And Usopp and Chopper and them have fulfilled that role here and there. But having a dedicated lookout, I think Carrot could fit that role very well, honestly. And again, she's another character who we know can actively fight, that she is strong. Um, so it's like, plus, honestly, we need another female crew member, honestly. Like, I love Nami and Robin and all, but we have so many members of the crew right now, and only two of them are female. So it's like we could use another. Plus, having a mink member of the crew would be really cool. Like, yeah, we have Chopper, but he's not a mink. He's a devil fruit eater, but he's just a reindeer. So it's like it's not quite the same. And again, I've stated it before, but Carrot has exceptional, um, just connection with them. They work excessively well off of each other. They're really close already. Like, honestly, you get the same vibes with Carrot working with them as you did with Vivi. And Vivi, like, she almost joined them. It was exceptionally close for her to join them, and she only stayed back, like, kind of as a last minute decision. And she was really struggling with making that decision last minute. And again, as I've said in the past, it's like fine that she stayed back, and honestly, you understand her reasoning, and it makes sense, and it's right. But she very much could have been a member of the crew. Carrot gives off that same feeling. She has that same like connection to them, that same kind of just quality to her character, except unlike Vivi, she is a much stronger fighter. Vivi could fight, but she wasn't a fighter. It was more of an act of necessity, and she wasn't even that great at it, honestly. Um, but Carrot can fight. I think honestly that might be one of the reasons why Oda didn't have Vivi join the crew, because she wasn't a fighter. Because although she could fight, she was not that great at it. Maybe that's one of the reasons. But Carrot, I could definitely see, especially since she's been traveling with them already for quite a bit, and again, the chemistry with the crew, it's like it works, and I really want it to happen. Uh, Plus, I just really like her character. But moving on, to Luffy versus Katakuri, because this is the only other part of these episodes that is like really focused on. Like, yeah, we get to see a little bit of Capone Veggie, we get to see a little bit of Peckham's, who we hadn't seen in a while, for either of them really. Um, we get to see a little bit of these little things here and there, but this is our first time in a while where it's like we've been so focused on specific things, because this arc has had so many different focuses. It's been like all over the place. Like even the stuff in here in these episodes with Gamma 66 wasn't as big a deal, all things considered. Though I do admit, the one brother, I cannot remember which one is Ichiji and which one is Niichi. I think I think Ichiji is the red one, but I'm not confident in that. Yanji, I know for sure, is the green one. But the blue one, apparently he can mimic voices, and it looked like it might have been his tech that was doing it, but I'm not 100% certain on that. But that was really interesting. Um, but other than that, even the Gamma 66 plot points that we saw weren't that big of a deal. Um, it really only focused on the stuff with the ship and then Luffy versus Katakuri. So with Luffy versus Katakuri, the fight continued as it had been, with Katakuri just completely outclassing Luffy in pretty much every way. He was just it was completely one-sided. Eventually, he covered Luffy completely and went to take his merienda, which is basically his snack time. He creates this shrine made out of mochi and goes inside to dine on donuts and iced tea. Um, which, I mean, sounds great. Like, I like both. Iced tea is great. Donuts are fantastic. Yeah, of course, it would be better if the tea was still hot, because then you could, like, dip the donuts in the tea and it'd be awesome. It'd be fantastic. I've done that plenty of times. Help people dip donuts in coffee. I like dipping it in hot tea. Sure. Um, but either way, it's like he goes inside, starts to have his merienda. But Luffy was not crushed and suffocated by the mochi. He manages to eat his way out because it's Luffy. I love how he mentions, it's like, what is with enemies at this place and me having to eat my way out of their attacks? And it's like, oh my gosh, that's so funny because it's so true. It is so funny, but it makes sense because it's like with where they're at, with them being in Toto Land, formerly on Whole Cake Island and everything. It's like, yeah, um, this place is kind of literally built around food because of Big Mom, so it's like it makes sense. His just harkening back to his fight with Charlotte Cracker and everything, and now with Katakuri, kind of having the same thing happen. And I like how all he does to get rid of the weight is just runs it off for a little bit. And I want to bring this up again. I mentioned this in the reaction, but I think I've talked about this before, and I think I've thought about this for a long time, honestly. It might be his devil fruit ability that allows him to get rid of that weight as quickly. Because it's like we saw, like when Usopp gained all that weight during the time skip period, like he held on to that weight for a long time. And yeah, he eventually got rid of it and hell got fucking buff as hell post time skip, but he held on to that weight for a lot of his training during that period of the 2 years. Um, so it's Lou, and we've seen other characters show like giant cartoonish stomachs and stuff after eating a lot of food in this series. We've seen that plenty of times. And then like the next scene, it'll be gone, like whether it's the next day or whatever. but it's like with Luffy, they draw more attention to it with him because of how much he eats, obviously. And I've always thought about like, what if his devil fruit ability can actually help with that? Like, not only obviously his stomach being able to literally stretch, allowing him to eat more, but what if I'm sure his devil fruit ability does use up a lot of energy, not just counting in the gear second and third and fourth and all that, but his devil fruit ability, I could very much see him using a lot of energy, especially with how he uses it. Um, so maybe that's why he is so hungry so often and why he can eat so much. Like there's this episode during the Skypiea arc where in it, like Sanji's making stew and Luffy's getting bored and impatient waiting for it. And Sanji's like, "Didn't you just roast up an entire sky shark and eat it?" And Luffy's like, "Yeah, but that was just a as an appetizer." And it's like it's funny and it's funny just hearing that and seeing that and everything. But it's like when you think about it, it's like maybe that's like legit. Like if that's true, if Luffy's devil fruit abilities do use up a shit ton of energy and allow him to eat more and make him honestly need to eat more, then the idea of him maybe burning calories faster because of the devil fruit, which can cause him to lose weight just by working it off for a short period of time, could possibly make sense within the context of, well, this series and his devil fruit and all. It's a really interesting thing. It's like you don't really think about too often. The actual logic behind the fact that he eats so much and can lose weight so quickly and easily. It's just not something you think about often because you just automatically see it as a cartoony gag. But there's actually like reasoning to it, and that's really interesting to me. And it just goes to show, like, even if that was unintentional, that Oda made it work to a point where it feels like it could be intentional. That Oda's writing just makes it like click together nonetheless. So that's just really interesting to think about. But either way, he breaks into Katakuri's shrine after working off the mochi, and that's when we get to see Katakuri's face. Though Luffy doesn't seem to care. He doesn't seem to mind it either way. But we see when Katakuri's eating that he's using obviously his mochi powers to extend his jaw down, and you see like that big bulbous jaw, which is like if we didn't know about his devil fruit powers beforehand, I would have like probably laughed at that or like been really confused or all or anything. But having seen him use his devil fruit powers so much, having seen him stretch his limbs and shit like that, it's like, oh, I didn't even think much of it. It's like, oh yeah, I knew why he was doing that to eat more of those big ass donuts quicker and everything. And I understood it completely. It made sense to me that he would do that, and I knew how he was doing it. So yeah, it didn't because of it. It just didn't click with me that it was probably kind of funny looking. Um, but yeah, we see that he has like we've seen the stitches on the side of his mouth before. We've just never the furry scarf is covered up like this part of it, but you've seen like the stitches going up here and all. Um, but here you actually get to see his mouth and everything, and you see he has these really sharp fangs instead of like regular teeth. Um, his mouth almost looks like that one girl with the panda hat, the one Charlotte girl with the panda hat. I don't remember her name right now, but I adore her design. She's really fucking cute. But she has that same kind of thing with like the stitched sides of the mouth that go, and she has the fangs and everything. Except they don't like go over her like lips and stuff. Like Katakuri's fangs, like they poke, some of them at least poke out of his mouth. They're that long. The panda hat girl doesn't have that. But maybe they're from the same tribe. Maybe her and Katakuri, like their father, who Big Mom did it with in order to have them. Maybe they have the same father, or even just different fathers from the same tribe. It's very possible, honestly. Like with Oda's designs and race design and everything with the series, like I don't think that's like coincidence. They look way too much alike. They have to be from the same tribe. Um, which is interesting. And as I said in the reaction, I knew about this going in. Again, having been so far behind, I knew about Katakuri ahead of time. I knew what he looked like, and I have seen him without his face being covered. I did not know the context of anything. I did not know how that would eventually be revealed. I did not know about this entire donut scene. But yeah, I have seen him without it before. And again, within the context of this world, that's not really that weird. That's not really that unusual or that strange anymore. At this point, we're so far into the series that stuff like this is like, it's just a normal part of this world. I'm not phased by it anymore. I'm not phased by that. I'm not phased by like the long arm tribe or anything like that. Uh, Characters in this world just have weird designs. They just do. And there are races in this world with very specific body shapes and sizes and whatnot. And it's, again, I'm not phased by it anymore because I've watched the series for so long. We're so many episodes in. We're over 850 episodes in. So it's like, by this point, it's part of the show. It comes so natural that it doesn't feel weird or off or crazy anymore. So even if the entire jaw thing wasn't just his mochi, it wouldn't be that big of a deal because One Piece. um, just because of One Piece's character designs and all. But yeah, so it's like with the entire mouth thing, it's like it didn't like shock me or surprise me or anything. Like even when I first saw it, like with screen caps and all, back whenever that happened to be. Um, it is interesting though, and this is something I didn't know about, that he seems to be super embarrassed about it to the point where whenever he does this, whenever he has his snack time, he goes into hiding, and which is interesting, and it kind of makes me think of it's kind of the same with Pudding, right? Like the way she grew up and the way she was raised and treated, she always hid her eye behind her bangs. Because whenever anyone would see her eye, even her own mother, they would call her a freak and say she looked ugly or creepy or weird. And so she would hide it. And Katakuri, even around his family, would always keep his face covered, as we saw. What if we find out that the same thing was the deal with him? That he was called freaky and creepy and weird because of his mouth. And that's why he hid that away. He became embarrassed. He became really self-conscious about it. I could believe it, honestly. But at the same time, it's also really interesting because the other girl, the panda hat girl, she doesn't cover her face. Meaning that either she is just comfortable with it and doesn't care what others think, or for some reason, she was not made fun of as much as him. If this is the case, by the way. That she wouldn't have been made fun of as much as him, which would be also really fucked up. I mean, yes, he does have the teeth that go over and everything, over his lips and all, but still, that would still be really fucked up. Like, I kind of want to know now if that's the case. And I want to know more about the panda hat girl in the first place because she's adorable. But yeah, that's really interesting to think about. But we see that after he ends up being caught by Luffy, even though Luffy mentions nothing of it and doesn't even really seem to care, you see how upset Katakuri is. He's livid. He is angry, like violently angry. to the point where one of the chefs who made him the donuts and all, he impales him, murders him just like that. No hesitation. And he attacks the others as well. And it's like, he is so fucking pissed. Just unbelievably so. He is. It definitely makes it seem like he is just that legitimately self-conscious about his looks, which is sad in a way. But also, it's like, you gotta wonder why. And if it is the same situation as Pudding, that kind of makes you think about things. Like Big Mom, she kind of touts herself as being super accepting of all races and stuff, but the way she treated her own daughter, the way she treated Pudding based on the way she looked, and if this is the case with Katakuri as well, it's like, maybe Big Mom isn't as accepting as she touts herself out to be. Maybe she's not as accepting of other races as everyone thinks she is. Like, she'll welcome them in, but she still thinks they're creepy and ugly and weird, and will still like tell them to cover their faces and whatnot. And it's like, that's basically a kind of like false um acceptance, a false state of diversity. She's like pretending to be diverse, but just because of like how her mama Caramel was, her mother Caramel, because she was like that. Except, well, I was going to say, except Mother Caramel was more real about it, but honestly, she wasn't. We found that out. So it's just, it's hard to say exactly what the truth is here. Hopefully, we'll find out. But it's like, yeah, I'm wondering exactly how far this is going to go, what else we're going to learn. But either way, in the end, Luffy figured out, we don't know what it is, but he figured out something about Katakuri's abilities and is now able to turn the tides. He's now able to fight back and even manages to land a really huge blow on him. So this fight is truly starting. Like, it's already started and it's already been going, but it was entirely one-sided before. Luffy is now making a comeback, and now that he's like unleashed the bounce man, oh yeah, it's on. But the other big thing to talk about, the last big thing, is the state of awakened devil fruit powers, because I do not want to forget talking about this. So we see in these episodes that Katakuri has awakened his devil fruit ability, which basically means that not only can he control it towards himself, but he can actually put it into other things. In his case, he can make objects around him into mochi. Not just making himself into mochi, not just being able to stretch his limbs with it and everything. He can actually actively turn other objects into mochi. And as it pointed out, this is the same thing that Doflamingo could do. Doflamingo could do the same thing with strings. So, because of this information, now being the second major villain to feature an awakened devil fruit ability, this tells us that Luffy is going to get his awakened devil fruit ability. And as I stated, my guess, my prediction is that it will be by the end of the saga, the Yonko saga. Because that's the current saga we're in, and the way it's being built up, I definitely believe that it will end with that, with him having awakened it. Now, as I said, that's also going to be an extremely huge upgrade for him. Like, when he first got Gear Second, that was an extremely huge upgrade for him. But getting this will be just as much. Because not only will he be able to stretch himself like he has been, but to be able to turn other things into rubber like that, imagine the implications and usage of that. Like, that will increase his arsenal and abilities tenfold. That's just gonna really make things more interesting, especially to see how he uses it, like with other objects and stuff. It honestly almost makes me think about Spice Girl, Trish Una's stand from JoJo Part 5, um, which I've also been watching reactions to lately because of Rough Senpai. And actually, that was one of the ones I just watched because I'm trying to get caught back up on his videos. But yeah, like her ability, Trish Una's stand, Spice Girl, the ability is that she can soften any object, that any object can turn soft like rubbers to where it's harder to break than even diamond. Um, and that's basically what it does. It turns it into rubber based on what we've seen. So it's like it's really interesting, and it's like just imagining Luffy being able to do that, to turn other stuff around him into rubber as well. The amount of, again, uses that can have is insane. Imagine all he could do with that. That could also be great for helping out his allies. Like imagine him like turning the ground into rubber, allowing Zoro to launch himself off of the ground, bounce himself forward to increase the speed and power of his attacks. Or that could technically apply to so many characters. Just imagine the implications of all of this. It's insane. Hell, he could turn an enemy swordsman's sword to rubber. Like, seriously. It's just wild to think about what that could be like. Um, but it definitely seems to be heading in that direction. And honestly, I would be not just surprised, but disappointed if they didn't, if Oda didn't have Luffy's Devil Fruit ability awaken. It's just clearly heading to that point. It very clearly is. Um, I don't know when it will happen. I don't know if it'll happen by the end of Wano. I don't know if it'll happen after that, like when he's going to go up against Shanks or Blackbeard. I don't know. I don't know, but we'll probably see. Um, but yeah, I'm very excited for what the future of this arc holds, obviously, but also the series because of the stuff that was put into place here. And honestly, the entire Awakened Devil Fruit thing started with Dressrosa and Doflamingo, but still, the fact that it was brought back up, the fact that it's made a return with Katakuri now, is really fascinating. Um, and you gotta wonder, like, does Big Mom have an Awakened Devil Fruit ability, and what would that even be like? Because her ability already affects others. So it's like, how would that even work with hers? The fact that we've only seen two so far makes it more interesting. So I don't know. We'll see. But either way, tell me in the comments below what you thought of this episode, or these episodes, sorry, of One Piece. And we'll get to more with the continuation of One Piece week number 2. So thank you all so much for tuning in. And for now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.